Kawhi Leonard. I've always tried to model my game after the way he plays.
Fulkerson looking for the oh my goodness, Keon Johnson!
Keon Johnson, that is a winning cut. Bam!
He's the newest member of the Los Angeles Clippers, Keon Johnson. The explosive guard from Tennessee was able to have a solid year in his lone college season. Despite being on a team with another 5-star recruit, he was still able to shine and show the world what he was made of in such a short amount of time, which is why he was selected so early in the draft. There's still quite a lot that we don't know about this new Clipper, which is why today's video is going to focus on 10 of the most interesting facts regarding Keon Johnson. And be sure to stick around until the end of the video to find out about an incident that almost ended his career before it even started. Before we get to that though, we've got some other facts to go over, starting from the top with number 10. Keon Johnson was able to up his draft stock during the NBA Combine about a month before the draft. Johnson was able to set a record number in the vertical category, reaching 48 inches. Yeah, he's jumping 4 feet off the ground. The previous record was held by Kansas guard Kenny Gregory all the way back in 2001 with a record of just 45.5 inches. Johnson beat the record by 2.5 inches, and to make matters even better for him, he's likely not to end up like Gregory did. Gregory ended up going undrafted despite his crazy vertical and never played a single game in the NBA. However, Johnson was drafted to the Clippers with the 21st overall pick, a spot that was pretty unexpected considering he was a top 10 projected player. But he can now play in the league while also maintaining his record vertical numbers. I can already feel it, guys. This guy is going to unleash a couple monster dunks throughout his time in the NBA. Next up at number 9, Johnson surprisingly wasn't always into basketball and didn't think of it as a career until late. When he was growing up, he was actually a very talented baseball player, and he even admitted that baseball was his entire life growing up. Then suddenly he started to play basketball, and by his words, it slowly took over my life. He played both sports during his freshman year of high school, but knew he had to make a final decision when he was entering his sophomore season. He admitted that it was pretty tough trying to pick a side, and he just couldn't choose one or the other. But finally, a door opened up for him that he never would have thought about earlier. The baseball team for the school he was attending ended up not having a team that sophomore season, leaving a perfect opportunity open for him to work and develop as a basketball player. That whole summer, he spent working out and getting better, and it turned out to be a pretty good thing as he turned into a 5-star prospect. Moving on to number 8, his mother was the one who introduced him to the sport of basketball. As we just talked about, baseball was Johnson's main focus throughout his early life, but his mom helped him spread his wings during high school. His mother, Consuela, was a 2-time All-SEC basketball player who played at Auburn during the late 1990s. Now, if anybody's going to be influential in his life, it'd be his mother, not to mention the fact that she was probably one of the most intelligent and trustworthy teachers he could have had when he started to develop his game during high school. Without his mom helping to push him into other sports, we probably wouldn't have ever seen Johnson absolutely demolish the rim during his posterizing of Georgia's Toumani Camara when he was in college. Coming in at number 7, Johnson attended a very small school while trying to get on the radar of a few major scouts and colleges. He graduated from the Webb School, which is a college prep academy located in Bell Buckle, Tennessee. According to the school's website, there were only 330 students attending from grades 6 to 12. As we mentioned previously, he started to get into basketball during his sophomore season, but that was towards the end of it, which means his first true year playing with the school was his junior year, when he averaged 24.6 points and 8.6 rebounds a game. He was exploding onto the scene as a terrific player, with many colleges taking notice of his skill set. However, his high school career was cut short when he suffered a meniscus injury in his senior season. That injury ended up keeping him out of the majority of games throughout the year, but it didn't stop the offers from flowing in. Next up at number 6, Johnson ended up committing to Tennessee over a lot of other big-name colleges. It took him a while to come to a decision, but he ultimately opted to roll with the Vols in August of 2019. It was reported that the only other school on his radar when he really started to narrow it down was Ohio State, which makes it kind of surprising that he chose Tennessee over them. although he wasn't committing to a trash team that didn't have any talent on their roster. In fact, there was another 5-star recruit in Knoxville already. Point guard Jaden Springer was another player at Tennessee at the time he committed and helped make Tennessee have a top 5 2020 recruiting class in the country. Just a little side fact for you, Springer was in fact drafted in the same class and round as Johnson. Springer was taken just 7 picks after Johnson in the first round by the Philadelphia 76ers, going 28th overall. Now on to number 5. Johnson was able to put together a strong showing in his only season at Tennessee his freshman year. He got the starting nod in 17 of his 27 games with the school and put up averages of 11.3 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game, shooting 45% from the field. However, his three-point shot left a little bit to be desired, as that number sat at just 27% throughout the year on 2 attempts a game. Still though, Johnson had enough explosiveness and creativity offensively to be the team's second leading scorer behind only Springer. The school was even able to make it into the NCAA tournament at the end of the season to match up with Oregon State in the first round. Keon dropped 14 points and 6 rebounds in that game, but the team was upset and sent home earlier than expected. It wasn't all terrible though, as he left the tournament healthy while being named to the All-SEC freshman team. A couple months later, he found himself declaring for the NBA draft, a decision that got him selected in the first round. It's scary to think that he was just seconds away from not being able to declare from the draft because of an earlier incident that happened to him as a child. Stick around until the end of the video to find out what incident almost completely changed his life. But first, we're on to number 4. The Clippers like Keon Johnson so much that they chose to trade up to grab him. We talked about how the Clippers selected him with the 21st overall selection in the recent NBA draft, but they didn't always have that pick. When the draft first started, many teams were confused by Keon as a player. Some had him ranked in the top 10, while others thought he could be later first round. And this is what caused him to slide down the rankings as the draft progressed. Soon enough, the New York Knicks were on the clock and the Clippers came calling. Los Angeles offered their number 25 overall selection and a future second-round pick in order to move up those 4 spots, and New York accepted. They ended up moving back while the Clippers jumped ahead to snag Keon, a guy they felt could be a future star in this league behind his freakish athleticism. Coming in at number 3, it's pretty ironic that Johnson was ultimately drafted by the LA Clippers. Johnson is the highest NBA draft pick from Tennessee since 2011, when Tobias Harris was selected 19th overall in the first round. Harris was drafted by the exact same team, the Clippers, in that draft, and has become a household name around the league right now. Johnson is set to go down that exact same path, with his only true weakness right now being his outside shooting. We mentioned before how explosive he is off the dribble, but those shooting numbers are definitely a cause for concern in the NBA. However, he's still a valuable member to their team because of his defensive instincts and his ability to draw fouls often. Apparently, the Clippers seem to be the only team looking into the Tennessee Volunteers because there aren't many of them who end up getting drafted early on in the first round. Keon has an opportunity to prove that there's still a tremendous amount of talent coming out of Tennessee, despite other schools having a much better reputation than the Vols. Next up at number 2, Johnson is scarily connected to the Clippers organization, which makes his drafting there a match made in heaven. Keon loves to fish, like a lot. One of the Clippers star forwards happens to share that interest, the veteran Paul George. It's also worth mentioning that both Johnson and George share an agent, the CAA's Aaron Mintz. Not only are these two closely connected in areas outside the basketball court, but Johnson has admitted that he prefers to model his game after Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers' other superstar forward. Each of those things were very critical to the Clippers wanting to trade up to grab him. The president of basketball operations, Lawrence Frank, said that it was great to hear that he models his game after Kawhi while also knowing Paul George. He continued by saying having 2 mentors like that is going to drastically help him improve his overall game to the point where he could become a superstar himself. Johnson also proved to be in the same mindset as the Clippers star duo by talking about his enthusiasm for playing defense after he was drafted. Not many players are able to ask for a much better fit than what Keon seems to have found right here. And now we've made it to our number one fact, and this is the most insane fact of them all. A long time ago, Johnson almost ended his professional sports career before it even got started. He was celebrating a holiday with fireworks and got himself in a really bad accident. Something went completely wrong, and he got injured pretty badly over it. From what I read, he suffered 4 fractures in one of his hands while also needing to get surgery done on his blood vessels to avoid having to get his hand completely amputated. He was only 13 years old at the time, and when he talked about the incident, he mentioned how he woke up and heard the doctors talking about possibly having to amputate his hand. Eventually, emergency surgery was done, and luckily the blood flow was going back to his fingers, which saved his hand. Still, he had to get pins inserted into his middle and ring fingers. From having terrible burns on his chest and legs to seeing 4 bones sticking out of his left hand, I'd say Johnson has come quite a long way. He's been asked about the incident a lot, and he kept on saying how it motivated him. He said that it taught him to hang around the right people to avoid jeopardizing the career that he so desperately wanted. Keon believes that horrible incident was simply a teaching moment for him, which is why he's grown so much as a person and a player. Thankfully, his future wasn't taken away by a random firework accident caused by a short fuse in one of the mortars. And with that scary story out of the way, we wrap up our video on the top 10 facts about the newly drafted Keon Johnson. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. Also, remember to smash the bell icon because we have a lot of exciting stuff planned for the future that you won't want to miss out on.